Hello, everyone. Welcome to Go Be Great with Coach Karena. I am your host. I am your business strategist. I am an avid introvert, and I'm super excited to be chatting with you all today. I am the founder of Go Be Great Coaching, and I've got someone truly special to chat with today, Lissa Figgins, and I'm excited. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. I'm super excited. And I just want to go ahead and welcome Lissa to the show. Lissa, how are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I feel really full. It's just been such an abundant week, and I've seen God do so many things in my heart and life, in my business, in the lives of my family and the people that I'm serving. So I'm just coming in really full today and just expectant about what the rest of this year is going to hold.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel the exact same way. There are little things that try to come and distract us, but that fullness, when you have that fullness, and I don't want to get into this conversation too soon, but I knew you were going to be a fire starter. But when you have that fullness, it is so difficult to focus on the distractions. So we're gonna talk about all of this goodness. So Lissa, I want to know, how are you loving on the world around you? First, let me ask this. I'm just trying so hard to get into this conversation with you. I know it's gonna be great. Where in the world are you?
Yeah, I'm in the Midwest, which is a great place to be this time of year because the leaves are changing, the temperatures are finally starting to drop such that the layers are coming out, and we're about an hour outside of St. Louis in Southern Illinois, a very small part of Southern Illinois, so not a lot of people around us, but we call it the Figgy Farm where we live. It's our own little piece of heaven after living in suburbia for a long time. Now we have the space and the slower pace to really just enjoy where it is that we're living.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love, at my age, our age, this is a series that we're talking about here. And so at my age, I really love the slow down pace, and it helps you to breathe and to take in your days and to just really be present in the moment. And I know, redeem her time, I know you've got some things that you want to talk about regarding all of this: time, space, how we are present. And so I'm really excited to get into that. So I want to ask you, which I've already tried to ask, but how are you loving on the world around you?
I'm so glad you're asking me this question this week because I have had some really insightful and significant conversations with women this week. Particularly, I love how you said women our age, right? I've been having conversations with women in what I call midlife. So some people I found love that term. Some people don't seem to like that, but it's kind of that 40-ish to 60-ish, right? We're not in our 20s and 30s where we're just getting started. And like you said, we're just kind of figuring things out and maybe on the go going after like all those things we want with a family or a career or business and, the house we want and things like that. But we're reaching this time in life where we're really starting to say, number one, I can't keep going at that pace that maybe I've been at for so long, right? So us moving here 5 years ago was a piece of my journey of just starting to slow down the pace of my body and then slow down the pace of my soul so that I could actually check in and say, where am I? And where is God calling me in this season of life? And, and I just think this is the best time in life because we have more perspective. We know what our priorities are. We're more sure of who we are and whose we are. And so we show up with that confidence. And we really are seeking to be intentional because when you start looking at the calendar and saying, wow, what birthday is it? You start realizing, like time is limited, right? Like it's eventually my time here on earth is going to be over. What am I doing to be intentional? So all that to say, I've been having some amazing conversations with women in this season of life, because here's the thing, in this season of life, we are literally stretched in every direction, right? We have kids that we're launching at some point. Maybe they still live in our home. Maybe they're at college. Maybe they're out on their own and starting to set up careers and families and things like that. On the other end, we have aging parents who are starting to need more of our care, right? We're reversing those roles. And then in the middle, we've got bodies that are changing. Maybe we have a marriage that, has been, we've been, together for however many years. We're about to celebrate 28. We've got our own, wellness we're taking care of, our faith walk. And then on top of that, having like a business or a career or something that we are still wanting to be successful in and purposeful in, but not have it take over our life. And so I find in this stage of life, as I've been having these conversations, women really want to be intentional, but they don't want to be busy, right? Like they want to slow down the pace of things, but still see the fruit and really be intentional about where their time is going. And so having conversations with women, helping them to see that really you do have the time you need. God's given you an abundance of time for what he's called you to, not all the things we think we should do, right? But the things that we're actually called to in this season. And giving women that hope and peace. I had this conversation with a client yesterday who came in very frazzled because of a lot of life circumstances. And we really just worked through the heart before we even touched her calendar, because she was believing things, which then led to thinking things and feeling things that then, of course, were affecting how she was using her time. And she wasn't seeing the results that she wanted. And so being able to have those kind of breakthroughs is just such a gift. That's how I'm loving on women right now.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I want to kind of backtrack a little bit with something that you said as far as being able to really have our body and our soul in this current space and time. And I think that is so important that we understand that they're separate parts of us. And if one piece is going in this direction and another piece is going in this direction, and then we've got another piece going in this direction, then that's when that chaos begins to happen inside of us and we're not even aware of it. And so having, that unified front really, I think is important, because if internally we're saying, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, but our body is saying, but I need you to rest, then you're going to be really at war with the world. Or how do I say it? You're either at peace with yourself and at war with the world, or at war with the world and at peace with yourself, however it goes. But nonetheless, you don't want to have that internal conflict going on. And so I love how you phrase that and talk about, really, before you even get into the calendar, what are you thinking internally? So I want to kind of pull that out a little bit for those that are listening, that, first and foremost, reach out to Lissa, because for someone to be able to identify the fact that, listen, you may have some things that are fighting you externally or even internally, and your goals and your vision, sometimes you're not even aware of that. So let's talk about that and kind of bring that to the forefront. What does that look like? What have you experienced with prior clients, current clients? And of course, you don't have to give names or anything like that or specific situations, but what do you see so that folks that are listening can say, that was me. I need to reach out to Lissa.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I'll share my own personal story. Here was my red flag that I should have recognized a whole lot sooner than I did, but I didn't, because I'm a nose to the ground girl. Once I commit to something, like I'm just gonna, keep going regardless. And I'm not looking up to really always pay attention. But here's what I found. I was present somewhere in body, but I wasn't really there, all of me. Right? Like I would take my kids somewhere. I remember sitting there, right? But I wasn't really watching them and being present with that experience. I was in my head or on my phone doing something else, or I would sit down to have a conversation with someone and I was there in body, but my brain was on all the other things that I could or should be doing or was going to do after that. And so I would just say that's one place to look and say, when I am in whatever the situation is, whether it's sitting down to work on my business, whether it's sitting down with your spouse, whether it's spending time with your kids or a friend or some place that you're serving in your community, are you fully present? Like, are you there in body, mind, and spirit? Or is just a part of you there? Right? Because I think we fall into this, like, I'm here and I'm doing all the things. And when we're doing all the things, again, it's like we've given little pieces of us away to so many different things that nobody gets us. And really, that's not serving anyone, right? Including ourselves. And so I think that's a place to start, is to look and see, like, am I somewhere else in my head, right? Or on my device when I'm with someone else or when I'm working on a certain task. You talked about distractions earlier. We live in a really busy and distracting world. And these devices that have become an extra extension of our body that follow us around 24/7 are not helping, because we allow them to rob us of our presence, right? To take us away from being fully mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, where it is that we are in that moment.
And you, something that you just said, when we're giving our time in these multiple places, no one really gets us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're sitting with your spouse but you're scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
that spouse doesn't have your time. And so, and I know this is going to be I am treading here, but I want to talk to you about multitasking, because I'm sure you have something good to say about pulling us away from the idea of multitasking, because let's just get into that. Let's just talk about it, because I know you have something to say about it.
I do. I used to think multitasking was my superpower, right? I was a wife, I was a mom. My husband is military, so he would often be gone for long periods of time. And I was at home, and I taught for a while, and I homeschooled for a while, and I have a business that I run, and I'm a women's ministry leader at our church and help other women in our community. So I have a lot of different things that I do. And here's what I would be doing, right? I'm like at the stove trying to boil the water. My daughter's sitting at the kitchen table trying to work on her math homework. I'm trying to respond back to a client on my phone, and my hubby is, calling or walking in the door saying, "Hey, I'm going to need this, before tomorrow," or something like that. And guess what? Literally, the pot would boil over. My daughter would melt down because math was definitely not her strong suit. I would misspell my text to my client, and my hubby's like, "Are you even listening?" Right? Like, here I thought I can do all these things and I can just switch back and forth really fast between them. And really, like we said earlier, no one was getting my attention. And so nothing was being done and nothing was being done well. And so I finally came to the point of realizing multitasking is not a superpower. It's actually kryptonite. Like, we are trying to convince ourselves.
So good.
Yeah, right. We think, oh, yeah. I mean, like right now, grab your phone or grab your computer if you're in front of it. And how many tabs do you have open?
Yeah.
Right. We're always going back and forth between things. And here's what's so interesting. Like, scientifically, they have done studies. And again, how they test this, I don't know. But just by having those tabs open across the top, even if you're not looking at it, you're distracted. They've even done studies that show even if your phone is not on, but it's in the same room as you are distracted. Like, our brains are always thinking about the other things, right? It's the shoulda, wouldas, couldas, right? All those other things we should be doing, we could be doing, we would be doing, and trying to go back and forth. In fact, statistically, we waste about 30% of our day shifting back and forth between tasks.
Wow.
Now, sometimes it doesn't really matter because that task you were doing really wasn't of any significant eternal value, right? But a lot of them, if you're building a business, if you're being intentional in a relationship, if you're, really wanting to serve, your clients or your community or your church or whatever, your kids, then that's a lot of wasted time. Because they say every time you change your focus from one thing and give it over to something else, even if it's just that, I'm just going to quick check this text. I'm just going to we tell ourselves, it's just going to be quick. It's actually 20 minutes that it takes your brain to fully get back focused on what it was that you were doing. So that's good. A lot of our time, right? That is just going out the window because we think multitasking is the answer, and it's not.
So good. So good. And I used to be guilty of the multiple tabs open on my computer.
Mhm.
And so what I found was, so I have become extremely in tune with how my body is registering certain things. And so what I found was, I could sense the conflict inside of me
Mhm.
with the multiple tabs if they were not specific to the project that I was working on. Now, I may have multiple tabs for a specific project that I'm
Sure.
kind of going back and forth because I need those. But I have found that I have to take all of them off if they're not for that particular project. And
Mm.
I can feel the inner peace.
Yeah, yeah. And guess what? They have this little thing that's called a bookmark. So,
Yeah.
you know how we save it? We're like, oh, I need to make sure I get back to this. And then you've got a bazillion. Just bookmark it. And number one, you may never need to go back to it. And then it's just not taking up wasted space. Or number two, if you do need to go back to it, technology has actually given us tools. You know, like I love that on our phones, we actually do have a focus mode. You know,
Mhm.
like there are
Mhm.
things, it's not like throw every technology out. It's, how do I use this wisely? And do I know? Here's the question I have with women a lot, like knowing what this is time for, because we're trying to, especially if we have a business, and especially if, like you and I, we do a lot of our business from our homes, those lines can bleed all the time, right? And whereas someone who goes and punches the clock 9 to 5, they've got that commute between, leaving work and coming home. And now they take off that hat and now they're, into the other roles when they come back home. But a lot of times I find the business owners I work with, we don't have those very, those very clean cut lines. And while that can be nice in some ways, I can quick do a meeting in the evening if I need to, or I can quick, take care of something if I need to. It's also really easy for it to all start bleeding. And then, like we said, the people that we really say we're doing this for, our family, are not getting the best of us. And so what I find women say is, yeah, I just feel like my time is all over the place. And I really encourage them to really get clear on what is this time for. And that doesn't mean it has to be by the minute, right? It doesn't mean I have to have every 15 minutes blocked on my calendar, but I need to know, what is this time of my day focused on? And those other things, will already have a spot to live, right? Like if it's something that needs to happen on a recurring basis, I truly believe it should already live in a routine in, the right part of our day or week, instead of something that we keep hanging on to in our head and think I have to do this right now before I forget.
Mhm.
And
I
one of
love
the things, I'll just say this as well, while I'm thinking of it, we talked earlier about just that fullness, right? And feeling that fullness. But here's the thing I think that a lot of times women struggle with is we are pouring out all day long.
Yeah.
And when you pour out all day long, guess what happens? If you have a water pitcher in front of you and you keep pouring into glasses, eventually what's going to happen to your pitcher?
It is going to be empty.
It is going to be,
Absolutely.
and then that next person who comes and who really you want to give that glass of water, you will have nothing to give them. And I feel like this is what we do, because from the minute we get up till the minute we go to bed, which is, let's be honest, is usually later than it should be because we got caught in a scroll hole or a binge of Netflix or doing some project, we are pouring out. And so I truly believe we need to have times in our day. And I teach a morning and an evening, a bookend, I call them,
Mhm.
right? Start your day and you end your day with something that is refilling you, your body, your mind, your spirit. Because until you fill up, you can't pour out, or you're not going to be able to pour out very well or very long.
Mhm. And I have to agree with you 100%. My husband and I, every single day, 7 days a week, we begin at 7 a.m. with prayer. Now,
Mm,
he may do things before then, I may do things before then, but we specifically every day, 7 a.m., we're praying together.
love
Um, and then in the evening, one of us is cooking between 5 and 6 p.m.
mm,
And we sit down, uh, and both of us may have our laptops in the room, but we sit down and eat and watch TV
mm-hmm.
together. every single day at that time. And then afterwards, if we want to play or, whatever on our laptops, whatever, we may do that. But for the most part, that 7 a.m., that 5 p.m., 6 o'clock hour, those are times where we are, and then for the most part, every night we eat oranges. We eat a bunch of oranges because we love oranges, but we have those set routines that we follow so that, like you said, we get what we need in the morning, that we're filling up initially, and then in the evening filling up again. And
Yes.
so it does help during the day, because like you said, if we are pouring, I just think about the times that my body has said. Yesterday, for instance, was one of those days. My body said, sit down. And so in my office, I do have a recliner and a TV, and I cut everything off, computer and everything, and sat back in the recliner and relaxed, because it's kind of like my safe space, where I just kind of unwind.
Yeah.
But if I need more than that, my body will tell me, no, go in the bedroom and lay down.
Right.
And so we have to listen to, what God is telling us through our bodies.
So true, right? Because I've had those times where I'm like, I'm just going to push through this. I'm feeling a little brain fog, right? Or my eyelids are starting to feel really heavy. It is a better use of my time to either go outside and get some fresh
Yeah.
air, some sunshine, get my feet, in the grass type of thing, go pet the dogs, or to go, like you said, lay down for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I feel so much more refreshed. And then, I'm ready to be fully present with what it was instead of just trying to push through. So
Exactly.
you're right. But we have that takes a noticing, which
Yeah.
takes slowing down to notice, because there's a lot of noise in our lives, right?
Mhm.
And just inside of our head, it's coming from outside of us. But I believe a lot of distractions are right in here. They're in our hearts. Fear, guilt, self-sabotage, right? Like laziness, like so many of our distractions really are a matter of the heart, which is why I always say that busyness is not just a disordered schedule. It's really a disordered heart. And
Yeah.
so if we start here, it's going to then impact how I'm spending my time.
So, Lissa, let me ask you this. Is this something specifically, because I want folks to really understand this. Is this something specifically that you help women with, to really identify just what I explained, that you are able to really sense within your body when that chaos is brewing, when those distractions are coming, when that disorder inside of you is there? Are you able to help women pinpoint that so that their days are much better?
Yes. So I have a way that we do an assessment to check in and see exactly where we are. And I teach that there are 8 key areas in our life that we need to pay attention to. And here's what I found. So, for example, one of them is our health. If you are not paying attention to your health and wellness, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, eventually it will demand your attention, and it will always cost you more time and money, energy, everything down the road, right? So we look at the 8 areas. We assess where we are. We don't assign any blame or guilt or things around that, because that doesn't serve us. But then we get our eyes on where we're going. Like, what do I want this area to look like? Where is God calling me in this area? Really is what's most important. And then we start showing up like her today, right? How can I start taking steps and using my time in the way that, that person that I'm envisioning 5, 10, 15, I like to say, what would your 100-year-old self want to be said of her? How can I start showing up as her today in these 8 different areas? And that really changes how we spend our time, right? Because no longer are we just wasting it in all these less important things, but we've got intention about where we want that time to go.
I love this. I absolutely love this, because I feel like it is so needed. Because when I get on calls with people, I'm just at this point, I'm just going to say, you know what? I need you to write this number down, write this website down, and I need you to contact Lissa, because when I get on calls and I hear people say, "Oh, I've been busy," and there's different things, and I can tell that they're kind of frazzled and different things like that, and I can feel it, I can discern it, then, I'm like, something's not quite right there. Now, there could be something, something very innocent, or, things like that. But when it's the same person, like I right now, I'm going through my mind people that I've interacted with on a regular basis, and it's always the same thing. Oh, so busy, so busy, so busy. And I'm like, not a good thing.
Yeah.
Not a good thing at all.
Do you remember, you and I grew up in the generation where we actually had a phone on the wall? And
Exactly.
if you were talking to somebody already and your friend called, guess what? They would get a busy signal,
Yep.
right? And what did that busy signal mean? It meant you were not available to talk to them.
Exactly.
And so now we have, these things where, it just goes straight to voicemail, or I can put somebody on hold and I can go grab it. But essentially, when we're saying to someone that I am busy, it makes them feel like, think about how that feels to the other person. Oh,
Mhm.
wow, you must not have time for me. I must not be important or priority. But here's the thing. I think as women, we in one sense, we wear busy like a badge of honor. And I'm sure guys
Mhm.
do, but I specifically work with women in midlife, and women in midlife who are building businesses. So we have a lot of hats, right? But so we wear it like, this is a badge of honor. This is showing my value. This is showing my purpose. This is right. Busy means I'm significant and I'm doing things. And yet, I really, like you said, oftentimes pause and say, is that how you want life to feel? Do you want to just feel busy and tell people I'm busy, 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 always busy, staying busy? I don't know about you, but when I look at Pinterest, when I look at Instagram, when I, look at those pictures of like, that woman I want to be, she's not like scattered all over the place. She's sitting on the beach. She's
Exactly.
deck. She's going for a walk. She's not busy, right? And so I like to say, yeah, my life can be really full, which is how I started off by saying I could have said I'm busy, right? I've been doing all these things this week, but it's not a busyness. It's really, I am faithfully walking out what I'm called to. And yes, that involves intention. Yes, that involves me doing things, but it's not in a busyness way, because busyness feels more like I'm checking boxes.
Exactly. Yes.
It's more in a faithfulness way of like, this is what I'm filled up with. It has to come out. This is what I'm compelled to do to serve the world. And then it's bearing fruit. I don't think busyness really bears much fruit.
Exactly.
Faithfulness, that produces fruit.
So I would like to ask you, Lissa, as we begin to close out, how did you get started in Redeem Her Time? What was the catalyst that said, this is something that I need to bring to the world because I see the need, I see a void, and I want to be that solution?
Honestly, it was my own story. And then seeing my story in the lives of other women, right? It was me being in that place where I was the busy girl. I was multitasking to the max. I was wearing busy as a badge of honor. I was not present with anybody, but I was doing a lot of things. Woohoo! And it really, for me, it was a significant birthday. And when I entered midlife, I hit that 40, right? I just had that wake up call that said, who am I? How did I get here? Where am I going? Where's time going? And how am I going to better use it so that it doesn't just feel like it's always passing me by? And so as I started working on me, I'm a teacher by background. And so, of course, I teach what I learn. And I started having conversations with women and realizing I wasn't the only one who was feeling this way. But they didn't have any solutions. They just kept staying in that same way. And so the more I just connected with women, and the more I heard women tell me life is busy, 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 always something, I just thought, this is not sustainable, and it's also not desirable, and it's also not very fruitful. So that's where I, really said, I don't just want to do this the world's way, where we're told you just got to do more, you got to make the most of every single minute of your day, and you have to. That's what a lot of the gurus told me, and I tried following their programs, and it didn't help. I didn't feel any better about myself, and I didn't see the results of my business. And I was like, okay, well, if this isn't what I want life to feel like anyway, what would it look like? And who is it whose advice am I really taking? Am I going to listen to all the gurus out there, which there are some great people I've learned a lot from, right? Or am I actually going to listen to what God's saying and, and really be wise and discerning about what things I give my time to. And I see so many women who have these huge hearts to serve our families, to serve in our businesses, to serve in our communities. And yet this busyness is getting in the way. And so that really just became my heart, was how can I come alongside these busy women in midlife who are building a business too, and help them to actually see more fruit by slowing down, which feels like the opposite of what we should be doing, right? And yet it's actually the solution.
Absolutely. A couple of things come to mind. Number one, the fact that this is something that you have walked through yourself. So someone coming into your this element with you doesn't really have to worry about, she's going to judge me. It's going to be a, you wagging your finger. It's not any of that, because you've been through that. And so I absolutely love that. And then the other thing that comes to mind is, a lot of times when I hear that I'm busy, I've been busy, it's always something. Automatically, what comes to my mind, just to be very honest with you, what comes to my mind is that these individuals have not really identified where they need to be and what they need to be doing. They're overextending themselves. And so they really need to get a handle on it. So for those that are listening, if you hear me say, go contact Lissa, or I'm going to connect the two of you, you'll know why. There's
Right.
no judgment, but I hear something and I know you need her in your camp, because, and I just have this feeling, I sense that you'll come in and just kind of like dig through with no judgment. You're going to dig through, get all up in their stuff and say, okay, now that we've pulled it apart, let's put it together in a way that absolutely suits and benefits you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a well-ordered life flows
Yeah.
from a well-ordered heart, right? So we do get into the calendar stuff. We do get into the, what should your time blocks look like? We do get into the routines and the habits. We do get into, how do I, set goals, and how do I keep them, stay focused, and things like that. But it's after we really work on that heart piece about what really matters. And when you were talking about that busy person, I think they don't know what really matters and what matters to them. It's probably what matters to everyone else.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we go through that. Sometimes that's how we get to figuring this out. But we don't want to stay there, because it's very exhausting and frustrating, overwhelming. And yeah, eventually you're no good to anyone, because you're just, like you said, overextended.
Exactly. So, Lissa, tell us how we can get in touch with you to make this happen in our lives, because so many of us need this. I know, if I had met you 5 years ago, I would have been like, I need you in my life.
Yeah. Well, one thing I love is that this is a growth process, because we will have to make choices about our time for the rest of our life. Even though those roles are going to change, right? Even though our businesses may look different, things like that, this is still something that every single person listening is going to have to, be intentional about, or that time is just going to run through her fingers. So the best place to go is my website, redeemhertime.com. I have a free guide there right now that's called Fill Your Cup First. That's totally built on this philosophy of you can't pour from empty. And so it's a worksheet guide as well as a coaching video. So you get me really kind of getting into your heart, like you said. I also have a podcast called Redeem Her Time. You can link to it from the website as well. And if you're interested in doing coaching, this is where we start digging, and we start, like you said, rebuilding once we've really kind of gotten down to some roots, and really look at what you're called to, because I truly believe you do have an abundance of time for what you're called to. And it's about you believing that, and then you starting to live in light of that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, folks, I have had on the show today Miss Lissa Figgins, and this has been an absolutely enlightening conversation that you probably want to go back and listen to it again, because there were lots of jewels, lots of gems dropped that can really help you. And then also go to her website, Redeem Her Time, catch her podcast, get that free resource. Also, lean into her podcast. Just, I will tell you, lean into her podcast. contact her for coaching. Don't delay, because a lot of times when we think we've got it under control, there can be someone that can come in who, has really been anointed for such a time as this to really look at your overall everything that's going on and say, okay, let's try it this way. So I encourage you all to really lean into Lissa and get the support that you absolutely need and deserve. So I will see you all on the flip side. Bye for now.